All right. Hey, welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I am Ken Walls. I'm your host. I am so freaking excited about who I have on today. I met this guy about a year ago, and I'm telling you, he is one of the most amazing people, authentic and real people I've ever known. And you guys are all very blessed, like me, to be able to meet this guy. I want to welcome Jerry Acuff to the show. Jerry, welcome and thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me, Ken. I'm excited about it.
Good. There's no way you're as excited as I am, man. You're something else. I'm trying to open up my Facebook over here on my phone so I can monitor what's going on. But so listen, Jerry. I'd love for you to start out with, because man, I know you've done a lot of things in your life, and you're the CEO of a pretty good sized company, and let's start out with, where were you born and raised?
Born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis, Tennessee. Nice.
Yeah, I left there though to go my senior year in high school at Cocoa Beach, Florida. And I made All-State in football, and then I wound up going to Virginia Military Institute to play football. And so I started in the pharmaceutical business as a sales rep in Virginia.
Wow. So Memphis, I got lost in Memphis one night, and it was late. I was on my way to Dallas, and I drove through Memphis, and I remember my dad saying, whatever you do, don't get off at the wrong exit in Memphis. And I'm like, so my gas needle was down to like sucking fumes. And I'm thinking, oh God, I got to get off somewhere in Memphis. And I have no idea. Well, I got off at the wrong exit. And it was not, I just remember I felt like, oh God, I'm going to be shot and killed over here or something. All those fears were planted in my head, of course, by my dad. But I got gas. I got back on the road and got the heck out of there. But so that's my only experience with Memphis. I've never been there other than that.
Well, it was actually a great place to grow up. And when I grew up in the 50s and 60s, because it was just a great town. I mean, it's still a great town, and it's got a great university there. It's actually a couple of great universities there, Rhodes, and then of course Memphis State. Well, University of Memphis. It was Memphis State when I went there. It's a great city, and I go back occasionally. Unfortunately, the last couple of times I've been back for a funeral, which now every time I go, I say I don't think I want to come here anymore. But it's actually it was a great place to grow up. And I wound up going to a Catholic high school, and I'm not Catholic. I'll tell you a funny story. I went there to play football, and I sat on a bench for 2 years. Now, I played baseball and I played basketball, but I went to play football and I sat on a bench. And it's the reason I went to Cocoa Beach. Well, I go to Cocoa Beach, and I make first team All-State. And so it wasn't good enough to play Catholic high, but I made All-State in Florida, and I got 55, scholarship offers, et cetera. And so there was an article in the paper about how did this coach let this guy get out of town, and he and I ultimately became really close friends. At the time he was my coach, but over the years, we became friends. But about 7 or 8 years ago, my best friend from that high school, who has been my best friend forever, called me and asked me if I wanted to be in the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And I said, well, you people must be at the bottom of your list. I said, because number one, I ain't Catholic. And number two, I didn't graduate. He said, no, this is a business success philanthropy Hall of Fame. And I said, well, he was in it. And I said, well, any club you're in, I'd want to be in. So I'm actually in the Hall of Fame at Catholic High School, which sounds like you were a great athlete, but basically, I was the bench sitter.
Wow. Holy moly. Hey, man, you're in a Hall of Fame. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah, but listen, that's the only Hall of Fame I'll ever be in.
I doubt it. So let me ask you, let's back up a little bit, and because I know you ended up becoming an unbelievable salesperson. and you've done a lot of things in your life. But what is, if you were to go, go all the way back to childhood, is there, because I think that there's always something in our childhood that influences or kind of dictates what we become or pushes us to in a certain direction as adults. What comes to mind for you? Was there anything that kind of pushed you in the direction that you ended up going?
Yeah, I would say, this may be a longer answer than you want, but 3 or 4 things. One is my father, who I was very much like. It was a great salesman, and he was a great storyteller. Mm-hmm. And I guess I just inherited his storytelling gene. And I think to be a great salesperson, you need to be a great storyteller. My grandfather, who was 6'7", and played basketball at Ohio U, and okay. In fact, if you Google him, the only Google references in the game, he scored 55 points in a game where I think that his whole team only scored like 65. But he was a salesman, and every summer he would take my brother and I with him for a week. And wow. And then the third person, the person who probably, that was outside of my family who had the most impact on my life was my junior high school football coach. Okay. And, when I was, you talk about being unstuck, when I was 12 or 13, I was arrested for shoplifting, and I was smoking and drinking, and I was a thug. Okay. And the first day I went into Sherwood Junior High in Memphis, Tennessee, I saw this big 6'5" bald-headed guy standing in the middle of the corridor, and he looked at me and he said, "Boy, you need to be going out for football this afternoon." And I said, "What?" He said, "I'm telling you at 3:30 you're coming out for football." And so anyway, his name was Bud Garrett, and Bud's 90 now. But he was, I never played football. I'd throw a football around and stuff. I'd played Little League Baseball. Yeah. But he was the greatest, motivator of me for the first 25 years of my life, because he saw something in me I didn't see in me. Yeah. I saw myself as, a redneck thug, and he saw me as somebody with human potential. And, it's one of the reasons why our coaching program is called Coaching Catalysts, because we believe that you need a catalyst to help you see your greatness. And I can tell you that every single time I've been stuck, and I've been stuck more than once, every time I have been stuck, it's been a catalyst that's actually saved me.
Wow. Yeah. I love that, man. And I've seen a lot of your stuff, and I hope, what I hope for you is that everybody that watches this, whether they're watching it live right now or they watch the replay, I hope they all go follow you. I think you're most active right now on, from what I can see, most active on LinkedIn, and you post some amazing content on LinkedIn, man. But I hope that a lot of people follow you because you got a lot to teach. And
yeah, we're doing a lot on Twitter and a lot on YouTube.
Okay.
Not as much on what's the photo one?
Instagram.
I'm on Instagram, but I don't do that much on it. But yeah, it's if you don't do social media these days, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
I tell people when I speak, I said, the reality is that if you don't understand the power of the internet, if you don't understand the role that Google plays and the role that YouTube plays and the role that Facebook plays, if you don't understand all that, in 5 years you'll be a dinosaur.
Yep. You're right.
You will be a dinosaur. Jamie Draves, who is I guess an expert on adult education, he said that the virtual online training, which is one of the reasons why I created a virtual online training program called Jerry Acuff ET, is the greatest it's the greatest advance in adult education in 500 years.
Wow.
And so it's not just online training, it's online virtual training by experts.
Yeah.
And so fundamentally what he's saying is that if you're stuck, for $250, I'm just making up numbers.
Yeah.
$250, you can go and learn everything Jeffrey Gitomer knows.
Yep.
You can go and learn everything I know. You can go and learn everything you know. You can go and learn everything Grant knows. You can go and learn everything that Janine Driver, who's the world's expert on body language, and she is a powerful force of nature if the God ever created one.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can learn all of that stuff from them, but because it's always with you.
Yep. The
problem with, the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, which, happened, and the guy wrote it in 1850, basically says that 79% of everything you learn, you forget in 30 days, and 48% of everything you learn, you forget in 48 hours. And so the truth is, if you have a virtual online, course with experts, that's short, because if the lessons are long, ain't nobody going to watch them.
That's right.
But if you have that, then you literally can know everything I know about selling, goal setting, relationship building, and how to coach selling. You can know everything Janine knows about, or Tim Marshall knows about overcoming fear, or what Janine knows about, body language.
Yeah.
And I mean, these are the the smartest people in the world. And if you have the opportunity to learn from the smartest people in the world and not just go hear them speak or not just listen to a TED Talk, but to actually study with repetition and with practice, you can achieve anything. I had a guy call me the other day. In fact, he called while you and I were talking. And his name, I don't know where he got my information, but I have my cell phone number on my jerryacuff.com website.
Do you really?
Yeah, and he said, I can't believe you put your cell phone on there. I said, why? He said, well, nobody does it. I said, well, I'm not nobody. I'm somebody. And right. And so I said, well, what are you doing now? He said, well, I'm a burrito maker.
A what?
And a burrito maker.
Okay.
In a family business.
Wow.
His parents own the restaurant, and he's making burritos. He doesn't want to do this the rest of his life. And I said, well, let me tell you what you do. I said, you go and pay $39.99 and you buy my goal setting course. And then you go through that course 3 times and then you call me. Now, he called today. My guess is he's been through it 3 times. And so I'm going to try and help him understand, how does he take it? Because see, what he is exactly what you talk about and what you preach about. He's stuck.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you don't get exquisite clarity about what you want, and then if you don't at the same time have the belief that you're capable of achieving it,
yeah,
and you don't let somebody else talk you out of it, and usually the person most likely to talk you out of it is yourself.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean, I tell you, I have a home in Scottsdale, and it's a fairly nice house, and
yeah.
My father came when he was 78, and this was, he's been dead since 2010. So he came with my brothers and sisters. Now, he quit school in 10th grade, was, an entrepreneur, but bankrupt 3 times. And, he could make money, couldn't keep money.
Right.
So he comes out there to visit, and I bring my brothers and sisters out there. And when he gets home on Monday, and I have him picked up in a car service. And so the woman who took me in a car service was a woman. She wore a black suit. She looked very professional. And so my father gets back to Memphis, and he calls my younger brother, and he says, hey, I need you to come over here. So why? He said, well, I'm worried about your older brother. He said, why are you worried about your older brother? You were just out there. He's got a really nice house. I mean, he looks like to me he's doing pretty good. I don't think I'd be worried about him. He said, just get over here. I got to ask you this question. So my brother goes over there. Now, my brother Jude is a consultant as well, yeah. And he's an expert in sales call reluctance. And he's really good at what he does. But my dad says to him, let me ask you this. Now, you got to be honest with me. And Jude said, yeah, I'll be honest with you, Dad. He said, you think your brother's doing something illegal? And he said, Jude said, what are you talking about? Oh, he said, well, he's got that big old fancy house in Scottsdale. He's got that mafia looking woman driving him around. Oh, and you just don't think he's doing something illegal. But my point is, you see, his mindset couldn't comprehend what I had accomplished.
Right.
And so he would be a person who would say to me, if I said, I'm going to have a 7-figure income, he would say, come on. I mean, I love you. You're a great kid and all that, but, hey, you're still a redneck from Memphis.
Right.
And so, what I'm trying to get this kid to understand is, okay, what is your goal clarity? What do you want really desperately? The problem a lot of people have, Ken, I find when they're stuck, is they're afraid to get on the path because they can't see the end of the path.
Yep, it's true.
And Maltz teaches in his book Psycho-Cybernetics, which I've read 70 times. He says that if you have exquisite clarity about what you want, and you believe you're worthy of it, and you believe you can accomplish it, then the universe will bring the ideas to you as long as you keep your mind open.
Yeah.
And so I've used that, philosophy, whenever I was stuck and when I wasn't stuck, frankly, to drive my success, because I know that if I really believe it, then it'll happen.
I think that, and again, I'm sure you've been through this, but I was literally thinking about this morning. Like I'm always creating. I love to create. I'm always creating new stuff. And I was thinking, okay, like this great guy. I don't know if you know Hank Norman or not, but he is a phenomenal guy. And he says to me, he helped Grant Cardone become the celebrity that he is. He created the Steve Harvey as a celebrity. He created the Oxygen Network for Oprah. And I mean, the guy is like a powerhouse in New York. And he says, you got to pick one thing. You have to pick it. Just start with one thing. You got to pick one thing and focus everything you have on that. Well, I do a lot of things. And I go, this morning I'm thinking, I got to get really super clear, and I start writing about I've got to get really clear about what it is exactly that I want to do with this new thing, and so I 1,000% agree, because I think that people get stuck because there's so much stuff swirling around up there with the 60,000 thoughts a day and the tinge of negativity from well, you're just a redneck thug from Memphis, all of that stuff going from outside parties, and people don't sit down and start writing out what it is they really want to accomplish. So I that's one of the exercises, and I don't know where I learned that. Maybe it was Zig, maybe it was you, maybe it was, who knows? But I get a piece of paper out and I start writing. And my iPad today. So back up. You ended up going to college, right?
Yeah, I went to the Virginia Military Institute.
Okay. And so what did, because I'm a high school dropout. I walked out in 12th grade because they told me I didn't get a biology credit. And I was like, well, how's that going to help me make money? I hate biology, so we don't need that. Let's just get it. Let's move on from that. They didn't see it the way I saw it. So I said, well, I'm not coming back next year. I got things to do. So I always, I was always envious of people, especially that were in the military or went to college. I didn't do either of those things. And today I don't regret it. I've had a lot of college graduates work for me over the years, so I kind of felt like that made up for it. But what kind of influence or impact did that have on your life?
Well, it's interesting. I didn't learn what I needed to learn when I was in college, and what I needed to learn is that the key to success is to learn to learn. And I didn't learn that. Now, I'm a huge believer in my college. I'm on the board of all the alumni agencies, and my wife and I donate a scholarship, every year.
Wow.
And my son is going there next year.
Wow.
But what I learned there, which I think is really important, is how do you deal with all kinds of people? Because in a military school, you run into people that you like a lot. You run into people that you'd like to shoot, and you run into people that you could care less if you ever saw them again.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a microcosm of life. Now, I tell people, I mean, Bill Gates doesn't have a college degree either.
Yeah.
So let's not have, let's not say that the college degree is the end all be all.
Right.
To me, the end all be all is really learning to learn.
Yeah.
And and I've told my son, I said, look, I don't care if you go to college. I mean, would I like for you to go to college? The other thing college did for me was it gave me credentials when I had none. And so I remember when I got my first job in the pharmaceutical business, and I wouldn't have hired me. I mean, I wound up running that company. But I remember when I got to the point where I was running the company, I remember asking the guy who hired me, who's one of the most wonderful people in the world, Jim, I said, why did you hire me? I said, first place, I show up in a brown polyester suit. If there's a match in that room, you and I are going up in flames. I said, the second thing is I had a lousy experience. He said, let me tell you something. I hired you because you went to VMI. He said, and I said to myself, you're smart, you're friendly, you're good with people, and you went to VMI, so you know what it's like to put up with a bunch of adversity. You certainly can sell. And so I have attributed my success so much to my university, not because what I learned there.
Right.
And I regret that I didn't learn more there because I was on academic probation every semester.
Wow.
And when I see these guys walking around with academic stars, I usually say to them, you're studying too much. But I learned that you got to deal with all different kinds of people in life, and if you don't learn how to do that, you're not going to be successful. My brother went to the University of Memphis on a football scholarship. I don't think he spoke to a person he didn't like the whole time he was there. Now that doesn't make him less successful, but I'd rather learn that early, than late. Yeah. So that was the big thing that my college experience did for me was it prepared me to deal with jackasses.
See, I think I needed that because yeah, I was a thug too, and it took me a lot of self-education to get out of that mindset. But I think that, and I know that especially in the pharmaceutical industry, my wife's on here, so I better be careful. But my first wife, her father was like a VP of sales or something at Pfizer, and like for a long time from Columbus, Ohio, and so I mean, there's you can't get a job in sales at a pharmaceutical company unless you have a college degree. So there is that.
Well, I hired people without college degrees.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah,
wow.
I did. I hired an LPN who only had a 2-year nursing degree.
Yep.
I hired a guy off a car lot who had 3.5 years of college, but he didn't have his degree. And I didn't believe it was that important. I mean, I thought what was more important. I always say to people, look, there's only 2 issues with being successful. Can you do the job and will you do the job?
Right.
I interviewed 1,000 people, in the 8 years I was a manager. I don't think I interviewed anybody who couldn't do the job.
Yeah.
The question for me was, would you do it?
Right.
Would you do it with excitement and energy and passion, and would you be coachable and all those things? And I think, I have an employee right now who I'm paying 6 figures who doesn't have a college education, and she's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to say it's overrated because I think, in many circles it's not overrated, but can you be successful without one? You're damn right you can.
Yeah.
But you got to be a lifelong learner and you got to be passionate about something.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I wake up, I started to write this long post the other day on Facebook, and I decided I ended up not writing. I got busy. But, I wake up every single day of my life, and, one of the first things I do is I spend 5 or 10 minutes, at least that, just in silence, just taking in and focusing on what I want to accomplish. And then immediately after that, I start learning. I either start reading or I start listening to a book on Audible. And,
right.
And, I've done that for, I don't even know, a long, long time. So, I did, although I didn't go to college, I learned quickly that, I got into a sales position with a company, and I learned very, very quickly I had no damn idea what I was doing. And I was like, oh shit, I better, I didn't even know what to read. Like I had no idea. And so I started with Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy and 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 funny, I remember the day Brian Tracy accepted my friend request on LinkedIn. I about crapped. I was like, this guy freaking I used to listen to Brian Tracy's Psychology of
Oh, he's
Selling.
great.
I wore his CDs out.
Yeah, his stuff is great.
Yeah.
So is Zig's.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I read all those guys.
Yeah.
I read Og Mandino's book, The Greatest Salesman in the World.
Yeah.
Which,
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. When I was a district manager for the pharmaceutical company, before I ran the company, the national sales director knew I was a voracious reader, and he said, "Hey, give me the names of 3 books that I should." We should buy for the whole sales force. He's 600 salespeople.
Yeah.
So I gave him the 3 books, and one of them was Ogg's.
Yeah.
And so the other 2 authors are very famous, and I'm not going to mention them because I wouldn't want to do that. But I wrote them all a letter because I was a member of NSA at the time, National Speakers Association.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I just want you to know I recommended your book, and we're going to buy 600 copies of it. And I didn't want anything. I just wanted them to know how much I appreciate their book. The only person I heard from? Ogg.
Really?
Now, the first guy sold 400,000 copies of his book. The second guy had sold 1 million. No, the first guy sold 90,000. The second guy sold 400,000. Ogg sold 10 million copies and ultimately sold 150 million copies of all his books. He wrote me a personal note.
Wow.
But you got to hear this because this is fabulous. He sent me a personal note. Jerry, I am so grateful that you like my work so much. He said, I was thinking that if you liked it so much, you might like this $79 3 leather-bound trilogy. He sold me a damn book.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? But see, that's it right there. That's it. It's
the other 2 guys I never heard from.
Right. And if Og was still around, he'd have his cell phone number on his website.
I know, that's exactly.
He would.
He sold me a book. I said, isn't that amazing? The guy who had the most money, the guy who had the most success, still selling me books.
Right.
So I still have the book.
That's funny, man. That's the way Grant Cardone does it too, man. That's funny.
So the great ones know what to do.
Right.
The thing that's interesting in selling it, and this is what I've always believed, and this is why I love talking to other, sales experts, is that I don't think anybody has a corner on the market for good ideas. I reread last week Paul Cherry's book, Questions That Sell, which for my money is the best, questioning book in selling that there is. And I said to myself, golly, we teach this concept of intent, content, condition in terms of how you ask questions. In fact, I just got off the phone with 25 international scientists in China, in France, in Canada, in the U.S., teaching them how to ask questions. But in reading Jerry's book, I realized that when we talk about content, what we mean is, what do you want to know?
Right.
But he talks about there's explicit needs and there are implicit needs. And so it caused me to realize that we need to change our formula. Yeah. So Gerhard said to me one time, and I'm a gigantic Gerhard Schwantner fan. Gerhard said to me, I said, Gerhard, why do you keep meeting with people like me? And this is 15, 18 years ago, and we were in Phoenix, and he and I were having lunch together, and I'm thinking, I'm nobody, to Gerhard Schwantner. And of course, he treats you like you're, royalty. I mean, he's a wonderful man. But I asked him, I said, why do you keep talking to people like me? He said, Jerry, listen. He said, this table, we were sitting at a big round table. He said, what I know about selling, you could put in this salt shaker. What there is to learn about selling is as much as what this table is. So the more I learn about selling, the more I learn there is to learn.
Yeah. And
I thought, wow. That's a really interesting idea. And so I encourage people to, and we do projects, where we'll bring in other sales experts that have a different take or slant on things, because I believe you can learn from all of them.
I think that, and I don't want to make this about my opinion. I want it to be yours, but I've hired, I don't even know, thousands of salespeople over the years. And it always surprises me how, and I think it was I think it was Zig would say that salespeople get diarrhea of the mouth. they just want to talk about how great their product is, and they never one time will ask a question. And so I came across this little book years ago. Now the guy writes it's more about geared towards the network marketing industry, but his name is Alan Pease out of Australia, and he wrote a book called "Questions Are the Answers." And it was like, after years of studying Zig Ziglar and all these guys, like I read this little book, and it's a little tiny book, and he talks about body language and stuff in it as well, but it rocked my world. Like, I realized all these years of being at the top of my game, I wasn't asking the right questions. A lot of times I wasn't even asking questions. I wanted everybody to know how smart I was.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead.
Well, I tell people there's 3 reasons people don't buy from you. The first one is you talk too much.
Yeah.
And if you survey customers say that 95% of salespeople talk too much. The second reason people don't buy from you is because they don't think you understand them. And they don't think you understand them because you're not asking them any questions, so that you can't create the impression that you have actually understood, what their issue is, because you never ask them any questions. And then the third thing is they think that you are biased. And so a big thing that we teach people, I'm sort of the opposite. I don't want to say the opposite of Grant. I mean, Grant's sort of a, in your face, get her done kind of guy. I'm an introvert by nature. My belief is that, I can show you how to make $1 million a year being successful selling by being yourself.
Right.
Whether you're an introvert, whether you're an extrovert, it doesn't matter. Just be yourself. What you have to learn is what are the fundamentals.
Yeah.
I remember walking into a meeting one day. This was a big client, big pharmaceutical company, and these people they were $210 million behind forecast. And so they called me in, and we get, a lot of times we get called in to help people sell stuff they can't sell.
Right.
And so I go in there, and the person who's leading the meeting says, okay, do you want to set up your computer? I said, I didn't bring a computer. You didn't bring a computer? I said, no, I didn't bring a computer. Why didn't you bring a computer? I said, because I don't know whether I can help you or not. He said, well, I thought we were here to see a capabilities presentation. I said, well, that's a bad idea. He said, why is that a bad idea? I said, because I don't have a clue whether I can help you or not. And I said, so it doesn't make any sense to me for me to tell you how great I am if I don't think I can help you. I said, let me tell you how this is going to work. I'm going to ask you questions for 15 or 20 minutes, and you're going to give me answers. And at the end of that 20 minutes, you're going to come to one of 2 conclusions. You're going to say, this idiot can't help us at all. And you're going to leave, and you're going to get 40 minutes of your meeting back. Or you're going to say to yourself, this guy can change our trajectory, and I shouldn't let him out of here until he signs a contract.
Wow.
Now, my question is, can I ask you the questions? He said, yes. And I left there with a $750,000 contract. And in 9 months, I took their share from 18 to 52.
Wow.
And each share point's $10 million.
Are you kidding me?
But you see, they didn't understand how the customer thought.
Right.
I said, look, I asked them, I said, first place, I said, tell me what you've done. And they said, well, why do you want to know that? I said, because, well, what if I'm going to do the same thing? Why would you hire me? So they tell me what they'd done. I said, well, how did it work? He said, well, if it worked, we wouldn't have you here. I said, well, I'm going to make the assumption that you would rather not hire me, that you would prefer to do this yourself. So explain to me why you're even entertaining a discussion with me, because this is really important and we know we can't do it. Okay. I said, tell me why your customers aren't buying from you. Well, we don't know. We think it's this. I said, no, it ain't that. I said, I can tell you exactly why your customers aren't buying from you, but I'm not going to tell you because I want to prove it to you in a discovery phase. Right. So the way we create our projects, we create them in phases. So there's a discovery phase. So you don't have to go. So it's 750, but that assumes you go through every phase.
Right.
Now they went through every phase and then added a phase and wound up being $1 million. But my point is, and after asking the questions, so I realized that their issue was they didn't understand the customer. And they didn't understand the way the customer thought about these brands. And I said, if I'm right, I can show you how to turn this around in no time. And all you have to do is to say this, these are both great products, but they are not the same. They are similar. The real question is, what are the differences and when do they matter? And when you say that, the customer is going to say, well, what are the differences? And that gives you a chance to actually tell your story. And then you say, look, the truth is you need both of these products. The question is, how do you decide which patient's better off on which product if you're only using one product? So my question to you is, how do we get you to give us a fair trial in 5 or 10 patients so you can ascertain what patient is right for the product A, what patient's right for product B? They went from 18 to 52 in 9 months.
Holy moly. And you know what? It makes sense. You know what you're doing, man. That's crazy.
But questions are the answer. I had a guy call me the other night. I didn't even know who the hell he was. Now I know him now, because now he keeps calling. But he said, he's got 4 people on his team, and he's brand new, and they're selling some kind of computer optimization stuff. Yeah. And I said, well, what do they teach you? He said, oh man, they teach you to slam these people. And I said, well, how's that working? Not working at all. It's not my personality. And I said, well, if it were me, I'd ask these people 3 questions. He said, well, what are they? I said, the first question I would ask is, everybody has a different opinion about this, but how important is your website to your ultimate success? Now, my guess is 99% of the people are going to say, really important.
Yeah.
Second question you ask is, so let me ask you this. How much would it bother you if you knew that you were losing traffic on your website and you weren't unaware of it? Would that bother you? How much would it bother you? And then how do you know whether you're losing those people on your website for that traffic? Well, I don't know. That's why you need to talk to us, because that's what we do. We not only tell you that you're losing, we tell you how you're losing, and we tell you how to get them back. Now my question is, when can we get a meeting?
Wow.
I mean, it's not that hard. What you have to say to yourself is, what are the questions I ask to get the information that I want? And what I believe is the less you care about the sale, the more you sell. Yep. If that person says to me, I think my website's a waste of money, then hang up.
Yeah. Call
the next guy.
Right. Because there's a lot out there.
There's a lot of people who think that thing is really important.
So let me ask you, because there's a lot of people, I believe everybody's in sales, everybody on this planet. You can't be alive without being, you have to be able to communicate effectively with other human beings if you're going to exist on this planet.
Right.
So the sales side of this is definitely good. But there's also, people who may be stuck in a job that they're just a receptionist, and I don't mean the world needs receptionists, but there may be receptionists out there that are like, I can't do this shit anymore. Pardon my language, but I can't do this anymore. I want to do this. Maybe I want to be a clothing designer, or I want to do whatever, and I just don't know how to find the strength, the courage that it takes, because you and I both know as business owners, it takes some courage, because you got to put it all on the line. Like you said earlier, sometimes you just got to put it all on the line. What would you say to somebody that can't find the courage to take that leap, that wants to, but they're just terrified, they're stuck in that fear?
Well, I was at a university the other day that has 120,000 students. 104,000 or 104,000 are online, 16,000 are actually at the school. And one of the things I said to the guys, said, if I've learned anything in my life, is that there are 3 skills that you need to be wildly successful. or more successful than you are. The first one is how to set and achieve stretch goals. And so the person who doesn't have the courage is a person who doesn't really have clear goals. They don't understand what they can do. That's why this burrito guy is calling me. He said, I got pit bulls everywhere, but I don't want to be in the pit bull business. And I said, well, listen to my thing 3 times and then call me, and then we'll start talking about what are some options, for you. So you have to get clarity. Yeah. Without clarity about what you want to accomplish, then you're never going to be successful. But the problem is most people don't think big. Most people think small. Yeah. That's why a mentor is really important. Yeah. Someone who's more successful than you are, that can see things in you that you can't see in yourself. Yeah. The second thing I tell people is you better learn to build a valuable business relationship network. I mean, if I wanted to meet the basketball coach at Arizona State, a guy named Herb Sendek, and I didn't know Herb and he didn't know me, and I'm still a redneck from Memphis living in Scottsdale, and I got somebody to introduce me to him, and now he's one of my best friends. He's part of my network, and he actually has a testimonial on my website about our relationship. But my point is that you got to be great at what you do, and you got to have a network. If you have both of those things, then you can advance. Yeah. But everybody needs a mentor. Everybody needs somebody who is more successful than them, that sees in them things they don't see in themselves. I know in my life, my goal, Ken, this is a true story, my goal in 1987 was to be a regional manager for a pharmaceutical company. Now, a guy like that, a woman like that makes $150 a year, maybe $40,000 bonus, retires with $100,000 a year for the rest of their life at 55. And I'm saying, a redneck from Memphis, that's the life for me. Right. And I competed for a job, and I was the number one manager in my company for most of the time that I was there out of 70. And I competed with a guy for a regional manager job when I was 37. My goal was to do about 40. But at 37, I had a shot at it. And he got it and I didn't. And what happened was he gets a job, and I thought I should have got the job, but now I'm working for him. So he calls me and he says, I want to come take you to dinner tonight. And I said, okay, what time do you want to meet? And he said, your wife's not invited. This is just you and me. So I'm thinking, he ain't going to fire me. I mean, I'm too good for that. So maybe he wants to smoke the peace pipe, because. So anyway, he comes to dinner. His name is Don Cutcliffe, and he's had as profound of effect on my life as anybody. And Don and I were, colleagues, but I learned a lot from him, and he learned a lot from me. But he said this to me at dinner one night. He said, Jerry, you got this. I got this job. You should have got it. You're more prepared for it than I am, but they didn't give it to you. They gave it to me, and I ain't giving it back. But then he said this to me. He said, but the truth is, Jerry, this job is not big enough for you. You need to be running our company. And I promise you I will not stop advocating on your behalf until you are running our company. And 4 years later, I was running that company.
Holy crap.
And so
wow.
I had dinner with him last year. He's 80, and I called him and I said, hey, I'm going to be in Tampa. I'd love to take you out. And yeah, that'd be great. And he's, he and his wife are doing terrific. So we go, but he tells me on the phone, he said, I got a bone to pick with you. And I said, all right. He said, well, I've been reading what you've been writing about me on these blogs and stuff. He said, you remember our relationship different than I do. We'll discuss it at dinner, Don. So we go to dinner, and I said, so what's your beef with me? He said, well, my beef with you is I learned more from you than you learned from me. I said, look, what I talk about is it's not that I didn't learn from you and you didn't learn from you. You changed my life. I didn't change yours. Right. And there's a gigantic difference between the impact you had on my life and the impact I had on your life. Wow. And I said, so what great people do is they see the greatness in others and they help them realize that receptionist probably ought to be running the damn company.
I love
And I
it.
see these people all the time. I mean, I go to these, you go to airports and Hertz rental counters, and you run into some of the most professional people you ever met, and you're saying, why aren't you running this idiot outfit?
Right.
Not that Hertz is an idiot outfit, because I like Hertz, but
Right.
I'm saying you run into all these companies where you're saying, you got a lot of really smart people here.
Yeah.
But are they being nurtured? Are they being told how great they are? Are we expanding their view of themselves and their possibilities? And so that person needs somebody to expand their view of themselves, to get them to understand how great they are, because we don't understand our greatness.
That is so freaking profound. But I have a question. Did you invite his wife to dinner?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, his wife was wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny. I'll tell you another story. And I didn't know this. His 29 years ago, 30 years ago, his son had 10 interviews for jobs in the pharmaceutical business and not gotten a second interview. So his dad, who was my boss, we had a meeting down in Tampa. He said, "Would you teach Mike how to interview so he can get a job?" And I said, "Yeah, just have him come over to the hotel. I'll spend a couple hours with him."
Yeah.
So I spent 2 hours with him. And anyway, the next interview he got 4 or 5 days later, he got the job, and he's been there 30 years, and he's a big shot.
Wow. Wow.
And now I got his daughter a job here about a year and a half ago. Now she's a wildly powerful young woman,
Yeah.
and will be a huge success. I mean, it's in her genes.
Yeah.
But my point is, you got to have a network, and you got to be good at what you do.
Right.
I created Jerry Acuff ET. I think it's ideal for entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
because if you're an entrepreneur and you got money and you got an idea, but you don't have a network that matters, and if you don't have the ability to be persuasive, and if you can't set goals, you're not going to be successful. Same thing's true. I'm trying to get these colleges to understand. I asked the people at this university this question. I said, "Let me ask you this." I said, if I have one of those diplomas, does it guarantee my success? And they said, no. I said, how much do you care about your graduate success? We care a lot about it. And I said, then tell me why you aren't teaching them life skills.
Wow.
I said, because every single person who goes through here, chemist, physician, pastor, salesperson, doesn't matter, needs to learn goal setting, relationship building, and how to be influential and without being pushy and aggressive. And I said, and that's what my virtual online course teaches people. And I don't know of anybody who couldn't benefit from it.
Right.
if they thought that a network mattered. A lot of people don't know that the way Bill Gates got into IBM, his mother introduced him. His mother was on the United Way campaign in Seattle, Washington, with a big shot from IBM, and she convinced that guy to let Bill Gates show him the system. And so I'm not saying Bill Gates wouldn't be wildly successful, because of course he would. But the point is, you got to have a network.
I 1,000% agree with that, man. 1,000%. So as a matter of fact, somebody came on one of my live streams one night or one day and said I was instructed to come and check out your live streams by Mr. Jerry Acuff. I said, wow, really?
Is that right?
Away. Blew me away. So thank you for that. Excuse me. So if you go to, I'm taking notes, by the way. If y'all are watching this and you're not taking notes, you're going to stay stuck for a while. But so the number one, what's the number one piece of advice you would give to somebody? I've been up and I've been down. I've made some great decisions in my life, and I've made some horrific decisions that left me broke. So we've all been in that place where it's like, good Lord, all the bills piled up, the electric company's come to shut off the electric, or everything. The landlord wants me out of this place because apparently he likes to be paid. Somebody that's in that place where they're in this rut and they don't know how to get out of it. What's your advice for that person?
Yeah, and I've been in that situation. I mean, I never went bankrupt, but I've been broke.
Yeah.
I got fired from 2 jobs. I started this company after I got fired. Nobody would hire me. And so, and I had a 1-year-old and I had enough money to last me for 4 months.
Wow.
And I had a $500,000 house and I had to find a way to make a living.
Yeah.
And so I've been in that situation, but 3 things have really carried me. One is a mindset that failure is not an option.
Yeah.
And that concept goes through my mind all the time. I will not fail. I don't know how long it'll take me to succeed. You know, Og Mandino in his book says, it's not given to know how many steps are necessary in order to reach my goal. Failure I may still encounter at the 1,000th step, yet success hides just beyond the next bend in the road, and never will I know how close it lies unless I turn the corner. Yeah. So failure's not an option. Yeah. The second thing is I rely on my network. I work the heck out of that network when I'm down. And what happened to me the last time I was down, which was 18 years ago, I worked my network and a guy gave me a gig, and that gig turned into the company that I have today. Wow. And I can trace, Ken, I can trace right now probably 75% of my business to 2 people. That if I did my business as a genealogy tree, it would all go back to 2 people. 75% of it. And so, you know, I worked my network, and then I learned that you have to be a continual learner. And to do that, you got to do 2 things. One is you got to associate with the right people who can teach you things that you need to know. And then secondly, you got to listen to podcasts, you got to read blogs, you got to read book summaries, et cetera.
Wow. So who are your mentors? I mean, you're incredibly successful, and I know, you know, we live in a pretty nice little place here, and you know, I've had some pretty massive success myself in life, but you know, there are people that think that just comes natural, like, you know, hey, you're just lucky.
No, I have I guess Nate's probably early 60s, Nate Sachs. I met him in a Vistage group. He's got a business called Blueprints for Success. And after 2 meetings at the Vistage group, I said this to myself: that's the smartest guy in this room, and I'm going to get a relationship with him. And I did, and he has been a great mentor to me. The other one is a guy named David Rich, R-E-I-C-H, and David is an early 40s ex-CIA agent, currently contractor, entrepreneur, and one of the smartest business people I've ever met. And I don't do a major business transaction without asking him what he thinks. And I talk to him all the time. And then the third one is the godfather of my child, a guy named Peter Ciano. Peter is a brilliant business mind. And so I rely on those people for guidance and advice.
Wow. I love it.
But I learn from everybody. I mean, I try so hard to learn from everybody. I spent the day on Monday with Tim S. Marshall and Janine Driver, and I'm telling you, I left there with my head spinning because Tim is wicked brilliant and has been so successful, written 6 books. Janine is the world's expert on body language. And I mean, you're just sitting there, you're like, my gosh, I'm in the presence of unbelievable greatness. Yeah. And it's not going to do anything but lift me.
Yeah. I've been talking with a really successful good friend of mine in California. Him and I are going to put together a very, very, very limited and tight-knit mastermind group. And just to meet like once a week or once a month on a Zoom meeting, you know, and just talk about ideas to help each other, because I agree, man. And it's, again, I'll be 50 years old in July, and it's taken me a long time to realize of making a lot of mistakes. And you know, I've made the same mistake many times. And, you know, they say that's,
we all have.
Yeah. Well, you know, people like to throw stones and act perfect, but like, hey, man, sometimes it takes me a while to learn. Like, you know,
I mean, repetition is the mother of learning, and sometimes you got to repeat the same mistake before you learn the lesson.
Yeah, well, and right, and so, I think that if we can get around the right people, and that's one of the very, very common themes of these interviews is people saying that, they had a mentor. Somebody just said they can't hear me. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, somebody in the comments just said that they can't hear me. But one of the common themes of people that I've interviewed on here is definitely being around the right people, having a coach or a mentor, somebody that can guide you. So biggest mistake you see people make?
They don't get a mentor and they don't understand the power of lifelong learning. And the challenge here is that the internet is causing information to explode.
Yeah.
And if you don't become a lifelong learner, you'll be a dinosaur in 5 years.
Yep. I agree with you. All right, so hey, what's we can wrap this up now. First, I'm gonna say a huge thank you for being on, but first, before I do that and we wrap it up, what's next for Jerry? I mean, you've done a lot. What's next?
Well, Jerry Acuff ET, which you can find at jerryacuff.com.
Yeah.
But I'm also excited about an app I developed called Really Linked. REALL Really Linked, REALLY linked, LINKED, and it's only on the iPhone. We haven't developed it for the Android, but I have 8,000 connections on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn does not help you manage your most important connections. So I created an app called Really Linked, which is designed for you to take the 50, 75, 100 contacts that are most important to you, and when you contact them through that app. And you can call them, text them, email them, or send an email that has a meeting subject that says, that you want a meeting with them.
Yeah.
And every single time that you contact them, it records it in the contact history. So I always know the last time I sent you a text. Mm-hmm. It also is a place where it keeps your notes. And it also it reminds you. So I can say, I'm going to call Ken on April the 4th at 4:45. I can put that reminder in. I also can put in a reminder that monthly I'm going to call you. So today, I'll look at my phone and there'll be 2 or 3 people that I have to call, text, or email. Now, the reason I created this was if you stay out of contact with the most important people in your life, you lose about 4% a month of your influence.
Wow.
And so I can't afford to lose influence with the most important people in my life, business life. And so what I do is and it's easy to add them from your contact, from your phone into your email contact list. And then you set up a reminder. Do you want to talk to them once a week? Do you want to talk to them once a month? Do you want to talk to them once every 2 weeks? You just set up that reminder, and then every day it pops up here, Really Linked. You got 2 people to call. And if I want to view their contract history, I can watch that. I can write notes. I can say all those things that you wrote down there you could have put into Really Linked, and it's free.
What?
It's free.
The app is free.
The app is free.
Why? Sorry.
Well, I mean, my belief is that if we can make it successful, that somebody will probably buy it. WhatsApp was free, and Facebook paid $332 billion for them.
Yeah.
So I'd take a fraction of that success.
Right. Me too. I'll contact Facebook for you. I'll sell
it,
Dave. I'm gonna download that today, man. That sounds really cool. So. Wow. So you've got jerryacuffvt.com to get your virtual online training course. Or
jerryacuff.com.
Or jerryacuff.com. Somebody did just put your link in, so thank you for that. I think it was Terrence. My wife is on here. She's blown away by you, as I knew everybody that met you would be. And she said, Ken really studies your stuff. I see why now. Somebody said, what's the app name again? If somebody would type this in for me, it's really REALLY linked out there. Jill just put it in there. So
It's all one word, really linked.
Oh, it's all one.
Who do you really want to be linked to?
Yeah.
I mean, I got all kinds of people that I'm linked into, but and they're important. I'm not saying they're not important.
Right.
But who are the ones that are crucial to my success that I cannot afford to lose influence with?
Right.
And if you think that way, and I got the idea from the basketball coach at Marquette. Wow. Because he calls one person, texts one person, emails one person, writes one person every day. He keeps in touch with 120 people a month.
Yeah.
But he's doing it off a piece of paper.
Harvey McKay talks about that a lot. And, and it's incredibly important. I totally agree. And it's hard to keep up with it I have.
Well, this is easy. I mean, and I get people saying, hey, we got to get together. And, it's just because I'm in constant contact with them.
Is it connected through just your contacts in your phone or your social media network too? Or
no, what I'm trying to do is to get a link at the bottom where you could Google from their contact list page, or you could go to LinkedIn. Oh. So if you want to do some research before you were talking to them, you could do that.
Yeah, yeah.
But other than that, it's just a very simple CRM light.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to download it today and start using it. So how can people find you and follow you?
JerryAcuff.com, and Twitter is @JerryAcuff. And Facebook, I don't have a clue what my damn Facebook is.
Jerry Acuff.
But if you Google me, if you Google me, you'll be sorry. There's a lot of stuff online. So, but the best place to go is JerryAcuff.com, because a lot of videos there. There's testimonials from people from all walks of life about how the information that I've shared with them has impacted them, and so if you're interested in that kind of impact, you'd want to hear what people like Herb Sendek and Andre Thornton, who I think is one of the greatest experts on leadership there is. African American, was Black Engineer of the Year at Lockheed Martin, does consulting and is just out of this world. But I've been mentoring him for about a year. But I think the best place is JerryAcuff.com.
Well, Jerry, you already know that I think the world of you, man. I think you're one of the most phenomenal people and it's like, more people need to know who you are, because you bring it. You bring some amazing value. Is there anything you would like to say to my audience before we cut out?
No, thank you. But if you go to JerryAcuff.com, my cell phone's there. So
wow.
If you got a question, don't be afraid to call. And then don't, for God's sakes, whatever you do, don't say, I didn't expect you to answer.
I'm going to call you and say that. I'm going to say, holy crap, you answered. Oh, my God. No, so listen, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on. You're humble. You're freaking badass. I mean, you're just a freaking good dude. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. I know that everybody on here, some people have really, really enjoyed this interview. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Ken.
What's that?
I said, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. The honor is mine. So, don't hang up yet. I'm gonna end the Facebook stream. Thank you to everyone who's watched this, been on here, shared this, liked it, loved it, all of that. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate all of you, and we will see you all on Monday. Have a great weekend.